Assalamu alaikum, first of all.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You are someone who converted to Islam in 2002.
Yes.
Of course, for the people who are watching, you were, of course, from the Outlawz, the Tupac crew back in the day.
Yes.
But then you found light. I call it
Yes,
hidayah.
yes.
You found light in
Alhamdulillah.
Islam in 2002.
Yes.
Take us through that process. Like what
For
made
sure.
that click?
Well, a lot of people don't know I was actually born Muslim. My mother and father was converts to Islam.
Really?
You know, yes, a lot of African Americans back in the day, they used to follow in the footsteps of Malcolm X. My parents were one of those who followed Malcolm X. You know, first he was with the Nation, and then he went to Hajj and accepted Islam. My parents followed him. So when my mother and father accepted the religion of Islam, me and my brothers was born as Muslim. We came later, and that's how I got the name Mutah. But when I was 4 years old, my mother and father got murdered in front of me. So that day on, my grandparents raised me as a Christian. So even though I was born as a Muslim, I was raised as a Christian, and my whole life I grew up with nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Until 2002, at this particular time of my life, I was successful in the music industry. I appeared on over millions of record sales at this particular time, toured around the world, performed with Pac, been on all Pac records. I owned 3 homes at this time, but I was depressed. I was unhappy. You understand?
I want to cut you here. When you
Yes.
say depressed,
Yes.
what do you mean?
I mean, I was dark. I just felt dark in the inside. I felt unhappy. I didn't feel like even living anymore. You understand? Even though I was a successful person, from the outside looking in, when they look at my life, people would think that this is the life we want. You understand? But I was very dark, very depressed, I was just a messed up individual, Aki. You know what I mean?
How do you think God, because I believe that God, will guide you in the darkest, in the weirdest way, in mysterious ways. What was it that clicked? Was there one thing, or it's a continuous thing?
I think, no, it was, losing Gaddafi, losing Tupac. These are individuals I was in the music industry with. These were my family. So after the death of Pac, I kind of started going more and more astray. I started turning to alcohol real heavy. Most people didn't know I was an alcoholic, but they would never know it. You understand?
After the death of Tupac.
After the death of Tupac, I became real hard on drugs, mainly alcohol. And my life started to spiral out of control. So one day I was intoxicated, and I got into a fight with my own little brother. And it was a Muslim in the studio at that particular time. He stopped the fight. Yeah, shout out to Mikhail, man. Thank Allah for sending him in the studio that day. He broke the fight up, stopped me and my brother, and we started conversating. And every day he would call me, invite me to the masjid. And I used to ignore his calls, out of busyness. Like, man, I don't want to go to the mosque. I don't know what's up with Umar. In fact, the people that killed my parents were from the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam are not Muslims. They believe that Allah is a black man, a'udhu billah. They believe that there was another prophet after Prophet Muhammad, some guy from Detroit. So they was more as a racist group, you understand? So I used to believe they were Muslims. So growing up, I believed my whole entire life that Muslims killed my parents. So I want nothing to do with Islam. When this brother would invite me to the mosque, I just felt like I owed him that, because he stopped me from pretty much maybe harming my brother even more. You know what I mean? So I took his invitation one day.
Blessings to him. I know he said something very powerful in the documentary.
Yes.
He said, I was telling Mutah that imagine when you wake up the next day sober and you realize you really did something very bad to you. How would you feel?
Them some deep words.
Yeah.
And we don't think about that when we're in the midst of our disbelief or our anger, our intoxicants. You understand? We react. Then the next day, that's my life. Pretty much my life was like that. Every day I would wake up the next day like, man, I can't believe I just done that. Who cares? I go get drunk again and I forget about it again. This was my life.
And it's
you know
a
what
cycle.
I mean? It was a cycle.
You keep forgetting about the things you want to forget about.
Exactly. And the alcohol was covering that. You know what I mean? So the first time he invited me to the masjid, I remember it was in South Central Los Angeles. This is actually the hood. You know the hood. Drove up to the masjid. I was in an $80,000 Lexus. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I was noticing people getting off the bus, people rolling up on bikes, people walking. Most of them didn't even have cars. But everybody was happy going into that place. You understand? So I'm here like, I'm sitting in this $80,000 car, and I'm unhappy. Yeah, I'm depressed, and these people walking in this place with big smiles on their face, looking happy. So I wanted to know what was up with these people. You know what I mean?
Wow. Do you remember that? Okay, so in 2002, when that somehow when that happened.
Yes.
Do you remember the feeling that you felt?
Yeah, so, you know, when I walked into the masjid, I remember...
Because again, you were born as a Muslim.
I was born as a Muslim. I lived a life as a disbeliever non-Muslim, you know what I'm saying? I actually was a non-Muslim because one particular time in my life, I would say that I was a Christian. Then after that, growing up in church, you know what I mean? I said to myself, I don't believe in this anymore. I just believe in God. The good thing, I never stopped believing in Allah. I didn't know what to call him, but I always said I believe in God. I never lost that faith. I didn't know what religion to follow because I had a corrupt understanding of Islam. Growing up in Christianity, and the church threw me off. So I was like, you know what? I want nothing to do with this. But when I walked into the masjid, this was the first time in my life I entered a mosque.
This was the first time?
The first time in my life.
2002.
2002. I was strapped. As I told you, I walked in there with a gun because the people that killed my mother and father, I thought they were Muslim.
Wow.
So I didn't know what to expect. So I went in there with my gun. I'm thinking Muslims are criminals and I might have to shoot somebody. A'udhu billah, I don't know.
You're coming in to protect as well.
I'm coming in to protect myself. So I walked in there and I seen something that blew me away. I seen everybody smiling. I seen brothers were walking, salam alaikum, wa alaikum salam, and everybody hugging. I didn't see this type of brotherhood in the music industry. I didn't see this type of brotherhood nowhere else, you understand? So I started paying attention to these people. Prayer time came, and the guy, Micah, was like, yo, you got to get up and pray with us. I was like, man, actually, I don't think I ever prayed in my life, meaning a real prayer. You know what I mean? And he was like, I was embarrassed because I didn't know how to pray. I said, I don't know how to pray, and what do I do? He was like, look, we Muslims only pray to Allah. We pray to our creator of the heavens and the earth. Just follow us, whatever you see us doing. But remember, when you put your face to the floor, whatever you want, ask. And remember, you only asking your Lord. So I did that, put my head on the floor, and it felt so good.
But it was the first time nearly you prayed?
The first time I put my face on the floor.
Wow.
My whole entire year, I would say I was 25 years old. My whole 25 years of my life was the first time I put my face on the floor and I started to pray to God. And I asked God, whichever way of life that would bring me happiness, peaceful, please guide me to that way of life. All that at that particular time, I just wanted happiness.
Yeah. I think you've experienced everything as well, Brother Mutah, right? Like
of course, man. I seen everything at a young age. At a very young age.
When did you start music?
I started music. 18? Well, I started writing. I started off as poetry.
17 were you?
No, when I was writing poetry, maybe 13,
wow.
12, no, maybe 9 to 10 years old. I would say raps, go outside and rap it to the drug dealers in my neighborhood, and they would pay me. And I was like, man, I can make money off of this. You understand? When I met Pac, I would say I was about 14 years old.
You remember the first time you met him?
Yeah, the first time I met Pac. He was in a hotel in New York. I went up there to visit him. I walked in a room. Gaddafi was a childhood friend of mine. Castro was in the room. I haven't seen him in years, you know. So I walked up in the room looking for him. He wasn't there. He came in a couple minutes later. Wow. And Yasmin, the mother of Gaddafi, already told him my story. So when I started telling him my story about the death of my mother and father, he started crying.
Pac.
Yeah, and I was shocked, like, wow. You know what I mean? That was the first time I met him. Yeah.
People have to realize that he's a human before being a rapper too.
So exactly, man. Exactly.
That's amazing. But what do you think? What do you think Tupac saw in you guys that wanted to do a crew like Outlawz?
I think he seen potential. You know what I mean? Because we were some young, wild kids. We definitely wasn't nowhere to perfection, or where he would have been like, man, this is my crew. I think he's seen potential where he said, you know what, I can mold these youngsters. I can take them in and I can mold them. And I think that's what he tried his best doing. Man, mashallah. You know what I mean?
Again, your journey is inspiring. Now you live in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
And it's really amazing. What were your first thoughts when you came to Saudi? First thing. When I first came to Saudi, when I first accepted Islam 16 years ago, a few months later, alhamdulillah, I was able to go to Hajj. So I didn't know what to expect. I was hearing that Saudi is a desert and this and that. So I'm literally thinking I'm going to be walking in nothing but sand dunes, you know what I mean? So when I got off the plane, I'm seeing building, homes. I'm like, man, what is these people telling me, man? Like, it's a desert, but you should have told me they had restaurants and stores. I'm thinking I'm going, and this was in 2002, I went to Hajj. So I'm thinking I'm going to a desert. My phone ain't going to work for 2 weeks. We didn't have Wi-Fi and none of that stuff back then, really, you know? So I went, you went to Hajj?
We might have had Wi-Fi, I think, but you know what I mean? It just started, you know? So I went to Hajj, and I was amazed at people that I didn't know was calling me and inviting me to come eat with them, come drink with them. that was shocking when I first went to Saudi.
It's amazing you say that because there's a hip hop artist by the name of Brother Ali, and he went to Hajj as well. And he said the same thing. He said, "People, we're paying my bills. I don't know. Like people, he doesn't know. We're paying in a bakala or what." So yeah, that's the Islam. That's the Islam that we want to push.
Islam. I was amazed to see people that I didn't even know, like, brother, tafaddal, come eat with us, come drink. At first I was hesitant because in the USA, when somebody invites you like that, we always prepared for we go in protection mode, like this dude trying to poison me or what, you know what I mean? But these people were sincere. It's the culture, you know what I mean?
And in Islam, like niyyah is everything.
Exactly.
So like everything you do is about intention.
SubhanAllah.
Do you? So now you're based in between Saudi and the UAE.
I would say mainly Saudi. I come to the UAE quite often, a year.
But you're based in Riyadh?
Based in Riyadh, alhamdulillah, for 7 years now.
MashaAllah. How has that journey changed you, like staying in Saudi for 7 years?
Saudi is probably the most, just like Islam is the most misunderstood religion on the face of the earth, Saudi Arabia is the most misunderstood